and welcome back to another episode of the In the Game podcast. I'm your host, Bryan Clinton. I'm here to help you today with some recruiting tips and tricks for Dynasty mode, particularly for day one or week one of setting up your recruiting board and how important that is. We'll kind of jump into this as I go over a couple of things in this Dynasty mode. I'm entering the second season here as the head coach at Oklahoma, and I'm just coming off the number one class in 2024. Managed to find 13 gyms in the last class, and ended up looking really well there. Had a lot of five-star guys. We can go through some of these guys here in the roster. So we'll take a look at this freshman class. So we'll just go ahead and sort it by red shirts and then go to freshmen here. And we take a look at a couple of these five-star guys. Got a lot of five-star defensive tackles in this one. I believe 4 of them, actually. So we take a look at some of these guys. We have a star development trait here. So he'll be really quick to turn into an impact player. He's already an 80 overall. But you'll see several guys. Here's another one. This is one of the quarterbacks that I found that was a gem. He was a 4-star gem. Just full of traits and mental and physical abilities, which that's really what you're looking for whenever you are trying to differentiate who you're going after in these classes. And so why week one or day one is so important when you're setting up your board is because this is when you're going to set up the potential for your class. You have 35 scholarships to give out every year, and really you're going to determine how close to that ceiling you're going to hit in week one. It sounds a little bit crazy, but if you don't take advantage of the opportunities that you're given in the first week to 2 weeks, you really put yourself behind the 8 ball. So let's kind of go through the process, which I've written down here. The first thing you need to know is you have to be strategic with your offers. Okay, you've got 35 targets to work with, and we want to break it down by position as a rule of thumb. Now, you're obviously going to change this from year to year depending on what your team actually needs. So we'll go into team needs real quick and take a look at the roster here. So for this class, I will need 2 quarterbacks. I'll need a running back, a fullback, 1 wide receiver, a tight end, 2 left tackles, and 2 right tackles. So I'll need 4 tackles and 2 quarterbacks, and then at least 1 of each of the rest of the skill positions there. On defense, we'll need 1 left end, outside linebacker. So we'll need 3 outside linebackers total, 2 corners, and safety, and then we are good at punter and kicker for now. Both punters and kicker we found last year were gems, so feel good about those guys. Now, yes, you can go through this year by year on team needs, and you can just offer the guys that you want and see what things look like in the transfer portal. I would not recommend that, though. You are rewarded for having good classes in this game, recruiting classes. So I think you're best to try and make the most of that. Now, do you need to sign 35 guys every year? No, not necessarily. But I would try and turn over the roster, especially if you're rebuilding a lower tier school. You're going to want to turn that roster over as well as you can. So good rule of thumb is 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 4 offensive linemen, 4 defensive linemen, 4 corners, 4 linebackers, 3 safeties, and then that leaves you 3 to go with punters and kickers if you need to, and if not, you can look at athletes. Athletes are going to be the most versatile. They're going to allow you to play a little bit, play a game of where do you want to put them. So now that we've got needs figured out, this is probably my favorite way to go about things. So you're going to take your recommended list here that you start with, and you're going to change that to 5-star prospects. Then you're going to scroll over here to the interest bar, and you're going to see if you are top 5 for any of these guys. And so here at Oklahoma, you've got several guys that are interested, that are 5-star guys. So we're going to go ahead and throw each one of these guys here on the list. That's going to give us several, and just for the purposes of this video, we'll stick with those guys that are one in our top 5 as far as interest goes, but also in the pipeline. Those guys are also in the pipeline, and it covers a lot of needs, and it actually works out really well because we've got a couple of athletes here that could play other positions for us as well. So we'll go through and select each one of these guys that's top 5 in interest for us, and then we'll also do this for 4-star guys as well. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot more 4-stars that are interested in coming to Oklahoma. So we will go through this list, get a lot of the first and second guys as far as interest goes put on the list, and then we will head over to our recruiting board here in a second, and I will take you through the next step of trying to find your best pieces in this first week while you're setting up your board. All right, now that we have set that up and gotten our targets, we're going to go ahead and take a look at who we have on the board here. So what I like to do on this is organize these guys by national rank. So you're going to have your top overall player here at the top, and then any of your 3-star guys that you might be interested in or you want to take a look at there at the bottom. So with the hours that you have, this is obviously going to vary based on the level of program that you're working with. If you're working with a 1-star program, maybe like a Toledo, an Arkansas State, somebody like that, Kennesaw State, one of those 1 to 1.5, 2-star programs, your hours are probably going to be a lot lower. So you have to be a lot more precise with what you're doing. Now, that I use still works for those programs. It's just a lot easier to go ahead and show you guys how this works. It's a lot quicker if you use a program like this, obviously, a team that's already up there and doing well. So in my second year, I decided just to hop on here with Oklahoma and show you guys. So like to take a look at just where Oklahoma sits with all of these guys, or your team sits with all these guys. And probably the first thing that you want to do here is sort them by interest level. And then we're going to go ahead and go up to needs scholarship, right? And we are going to sort that by interest level, and then we're going to go into and offer scholarships to these guys. So really what I would pay attention to is make sure you're offering your 4-star guys and your 5-star guys first. Don't jump in on a 3-star guy just yet, offering him a scholarship, because you might end up getting an instant commit, which isn't necessarily what you want from a 3-star guy at this point in the process. So we'll go through. We will offer all of these 4 and 5-star guys and see if you can pick up an instant commit from one of those. Now, that's beneficial on more than one front. Obviously, it's great to pick up a 4-star right out of the gate, but what it also does is down the line is going to save you hours, which especially in lower tier programs, that's really going to benefit you in the long run. You are going to get to a point where you are running out of hours, and you're trying to spread yourself as far as you can with the recruits that you're out there looking at, and at some point it's really going to end up hurting you in the long run if you're spreading yourself too thin. So we will go through and offer all these guys, and then we'll take a look here and see if we picked up any instant commits. So it looks like we've got one here from a 4-star linebacker, and that's it. So we picked up one instant commit. Now, the next thing that you're going to do, you're going to go through these 3-star guys and just see if you found any gems. See, here's a bust, so you can go ahead and remove him, especially a 3-star bust. That's not something that you want if you're at this level program. Now, that might be somebody at if they're super interested in coming to your school and you're working with a smaller school, that might be somebody you're interested in still, because turning over the roster in a couple of years there is going to be a little more important. So we can go ahead and remove these. We can go ahead and remove these 3-star guys. And then now that we've got a few spots open here, we will refill those with 4 stars or 5 stars if you're lucky enough to have guys that are interested that are still 5 stars. And then you will kind of repeat the process starting with the lower tier, if that makes sense. You're going to sort these by national rank, and then you're going to start scouting from the bottom. That way you are scouting the guys that are lower and see if you can find a gem. That way you can prioritize those guys. And then at the top, when you've got 5 stars, more often than not, regardless of whether those guys are gems or busts or just a normal development trait, those are going to benefit you as far as your class goes. So start with your lower tier, and then you will work up to the higher tier. So we will fast forward through that and let you guys see how this works out. All right, so something else that might be helpful in this is when you have gone through your recruiting board and gotten rid of some of those busts that you found while scouting. One of the best things to do, or one of the quickest ways to go back and backfill that recruiting board, is so you're going to press triangle or Y, depending on what console you're using, and we're going to do the minimum star rating up to 4 for this particular school. Again, that's going to change depending on what kind of school you're starting with, but it's easiest to go in here and sort by top 3 in the interest category, and then by the star rating, and then that gives you a baseline for guys that really fit your program. Makes it a lot easier to sort through and see who is worth grabbing and who's not. So you can see on a couple of these, like these 2 guys here, we've already found out that they're busts. So we're going to sort this by interest once again, and take a look at some of the guys that we haven't scouted already, offer those guys scholarships, then continue the process of weeding out some of the better players. Now, we found 8, in this particular instance, we found 8 busts and 9 gems, including 2 5-star gems, which those guys are going to be absolute studs. And that's the best way to kind of determine who's going to be worth fighting for and really getting into some of these battles with the other schools, and then some guys that may not be worth going after. So use that to kind of determine who you're really targeting week in and week out. But as you build out your board here in the first week, just keep that in mind. And once you run out of recruiting hours, we will go ahead and move on to the next week. All right, once you get finished with your first week and you run out of recruiting hours, this is super important. You're going to go through and take a look at where you stand in terms of ranking for these guys. So if you notice that you're well behind, I'm going to go through here and see if we just really trail anyone in a big way. We're sitting pretty in a lot of these recruitments. that one, Texas has a pretty decent lead here on this one. So this might be a situation where, uh, if you have a big school that is well ahead, it might be best to just pull out of this race and use those and allocate those hours somewhere else, right? 35. This is where it's going to be good to break out a calculator. 50 is a good baseline. That's pretty common for how many hours you could allocate to somebody. So 50 times 35 is going to be 1,750 hours. So that's well above what I have here with Oklahoma at 900 hours. So you're not going to be able to bring in everybody. That's just that's a reality. So really at this point, what you do is you're going to really try and focus on the guys that are really close to committing. So, for example, Randy Butcher here is close to committing. He is already well on his way to picking one of these schools, and Oklahoma's in the lead for him here. So, in a situation like this, you're already well out ahead. It might be good to use friends and family action on that, and maybe save some for some of these bigger decisions coming. So go ahead and go through those. Go ahead and go through your board there and prioritize the gyms. So like these 5-star gyms that I'm looking at here, those are going to be the players that I absolutely make sure I'm filling up the board on how much time I'm spending, how many hours I'm spending on those guys. Those are going to be the most valuable kinds of players that you can find in this game. So if you can find a couple of 5-star gyms, if you're an upper tier program, you're going to want to pour in all of your resources that it will let you into those. So, go through those, determine who you think is most important. Obviously, you want to prioritize the gyms and the 5-star guys, and then you're going to adjust that accordingly for the other players as well as you kind of go down in prestige. So going through that is super important, and getting those guys lined out in your first 2 weeks is going to really benefit you in a big way, because once you start hitting week 4, week 5, it's going to be time for your influence to be switched over to pitching, and you're going to do soft and hard sells on guys and try and set up visits as early as possible. And if you can build a lead in those first 2 weeks, that's really going to benefit you in a big way. And it also helps you clear out that target list pretty quickly. It's going to take some guys longer, but once you start seeing players bringing their top 5 list out, you'll be sitting in good position to land those guys, and then it obviously is going to help you on the back end as you have more hours to allocate elsewhere with those guys already in the bag. So hopefully this helps a little bit. I know that recruiting is a lot in this game, but I do think it's something that if you take the time and really try to prioritize the right players, it's going to benefit you in the long run. And so with this, we will go ahead and call this an episode. In the next episode, we'll take a look at what things look like once it's time to start hard and soft selling players in mid-season.